So hi all, and this is Pietro Polsinelli. I write about game design, games, and game development at designagame.eu. And in this video, I'd like to talk to informally chat with friends about using the new 2D framework, which ships with the latest Unity 4.3. Now, I mean, what they achieved, what they hope to have achieved with the new framework is the fact that somebody who has like some basic assets ready for creating a 2D game, he or she, they used to open Unity and find some simple path to create a very basic simple game. And in fact, what they soon found themselves immersed in all the problems of a complex 3D game, probably first person perspective, and all the problems of camera, 3D physics, 3D vector spatial logic, and so on, which made the effort seem huge for realizing quite basic games. So I think for the little I know, and for what I tried up to now, that in fact with this new release things are simpler. Even I can do the basics of a game quite quickly. So, and in fact, for the few available tutorials on Unity 2D, they seem to be mainly focused on platformers and top-down shooters. And in fact, this is not at all the game genre I'm most fascinated with. Though of course you can make of course this is just a question of personal tastes. Anyway, creating emergent or strategic games, 2D games, is also a very interesting field, and this is what I want to give a try. So I took a game, actually a board game I designed a couple of years ago. Just for playing it with friends, about the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, which is a quite famous battle between between three Roman legions led by Varus and Germanic tribes led by Arminius, who, not by chance, was a former Roman officer. And in fact, it's one of the very, very few cases of Roman legions defeat not by other Roman legions. So I find it a particularly interesting case. Here we see, I got this image from Wikipedia, a map of the battle. In fact, what happened? The legion were in fact marching across the forest, and the Germanic tribes did a carefully prepared ambush. So we are going to try to start reproducing some aspects of this battle. Now, so let's go to Unity. Now here I'm going to assume a basic familiarity with the Unity environment, so that you installed it and you know a few things about it. You know what a scene is, and I'm also not going to go into detail about programming, because of course this would go way beyond the scope of this small video. But we're gonna see all some concepts of game development, of Unity development, in particular 2D Unity development, and how I organize the code. I mean, I'm not at all a Unity expert, so this is just like a diary of ongoing development, and this is the first part. Also, I'm not gonna write much code in the video. I prefer to explain what I did, and of course you can download the complete project at this stage and at future stages at the links which are provided below the video. And that's it. Oh, the code will be in C#. Now, so where can we start? Well, you see here in the scene view, I've already did a very rough reconstruction of the path in the wood and of the situation. For the graphic assets, I unfortunately for you, I did them myself, and it's my very first try at any kind of graphic design, as you can see. But I used some pixel graphics, and I used this really brilliant tool, which is Pixel Edit, which is almost free. And if you're just going to do pixel graphics, you can do wonderful stuff, not like I'm doing, but it can be very useful also for doing rough sketches. Okay, so let's zoom in a bit in our scene. Now, as the project I created is a 2D project, so when you create a new project now in Unity, you can choose between a 3D and 2D project. So 2D projects simplifies, sets you up a lot of stuff that gets in the way when you start in a 3D normal project. And one of the most common nightmares is the use of the camera. The other one is how to have a very simple sprite in the scene. Also, that's been solved, but we'll get to that. But for the camera, so there's this little button here selected, and in fact you can anytime deselect it and have a look at your scene from another perspective. But that's usually not needed, because also for layering, the new Unity has its own way to do it without using the Z-axis. Okay, so anyway, so this is how our scene is composed. You can see it's composed by pieces of wood, marsh, mountain, and some legionaries here. So what I did, I put in a folder in my assets, which is the default folder for Unity projects. I created a sprites folder, and I just dragged my sprites there. Now, when you create your sprites, you can create single sprites, or even better, you can create sprite sheets. So that is a collection of sprites, so that when you import them in Unity, if you have a sprite like this, for example, you see this is made of actually 4 sprites, and you can click on Sprite Editor here and slice it. Okay, in my case I have 4 simple 100 pixel, it's actually 20 pixel times 20 pixel for each sprite, and you can say to slice it either automatically or with a grid. It works quite well in also the automatic case. And so if you have already created a sprite sheet, this will be optimized at runtime. Instead, if you're creating separated sprites, you will need to have atlasing, which is not provided in the free version of Unity. So anyway, so if you do that, if you splice it, you slice it, if you get 4 sprites composing it, and you can use them in different situations. So you have your images, you have your sprite sheets, you imported them. How do you get them into the scene? Well, it's very simple. You just have to drag them into the scene to have them. So I could do this. But this actually would be the wrong thing. So let's not do that. Why? Because in fact, when you're working with Unity, so in case my legionaries, there will be many instances of each of them, supposing that each of them, even if each of them represents several centurie, to have a legion, I mean that's 5,000 men, I want to represent it with several sprites instances. So for this, when you have when in Unity you have want to have several instances of the same object, but you want to have each instance to have its own state, you have to use prefabs, which is a really great feature of Unity. A prefab is nothing but, you can think of it as a template. So in case I created my prefab Roman infantry, which is simply associated to a sprite image, which is my Legio 0 sprite. And then I wanted to have some physics behavior. Now, notice that our scene, this is something also that in the other tutorials, I mean here we have a top view, and actually we don't want gravity, so we don't really want physics in a complete sense, but we want objects to detect collisions and somehow not to be to have some substance. Okay, so in order to detect collision and also determine collisions on other objects, you have to add a collider. In the case of a 2D project, there's a specific one. It's called box collider. I mean collider 2D, and there are all kinds of them. I'm using the box collider. We'll see afterwards why. And in this case, I also want my legionary not to be transparent, let's see, like not to be a ghost, so I also associate to it a rigid body. So once you set this stuff on your prefab, each of your instances of Roman infantry will inherit all these features, but at runtime each of the instances will have its own life. So if say instead of 3 Romans I want to have a 4th one, I can just drag it and have it there. Now, now notice how I've sort of reduced the collider size here, 0.606, in order to, because of how the sprite is made, in order to have it to have a nicer effect when starting a melee with the Germanic tribes. And most importantly, each of my instances will have a script associated to it, which tells it what to do and how to maintain and react to state. We'll get to that script detail soon. What else? So I have another thing. In order to have some order here on the left side of my project, I've collected all the fighting units on the units. So I'll drag my Roman infantry here. Notice that this moving stuff around in Unity miraculously does not break code or behavior. So I have under units all my units, and under environment I have all the pieces that compose my environment. Now, what else do I have in my scene? In my scene, I have, well, another of the nightmares is of Unity 3D is the use of lighting, combined with the cameras, of course. So, and in fact, you don't need to deal with that originally in the Unity 2D. When you start, you don't have to deal neither with the camera nor with the lightning. But actually, I did introduce some lightning here, so a point light, just to show you that you can do it even in 2D quite simply. And as you can see here already, Unity is very generous that it shows some runtime features already in the scene view. So as you can see here, because the light is the light position is slightly on the right, because I'm assuming that that the battle is starting as it was started in early morning. So the sun will be a bit towards the east. So the eastern part have more light than the western part. We could one thing I want to do in following videos that we do a script to move the sun during the battle so the lightning changes. Anyway, okay, so this is the stuff. So I have main camera. I've just used the default camera. We have the environment with all the environment, the units, the point light, and then we have a classical trick of Unity. That is, we have a battle scene manager. So an empty game object in which I keep and maintain statically with respect to the scene, the state of the scene. Now, in this case, sometimes people do this calling it game manager, but as I may have several seen, I prefer to scope it, as suggested by Giardini, to scope it to have a scene scoped, and I do like a singleton instance of the game manager inside the battle scene manager. If this is all mysterious, just go and download the project, open the battle scene manager associated script code, and you can check it out. Okay, let's so we've seen our sprites. We've seen just to dragging here and splicing them when needed. We have our scene composed. So two further things I want to go through in this video are the animator part and the code. Maybe it's better to see first the code, the basic code. Now, as a beginner in Unity, there's one thing which coming from web development in Java, JavaScript, server side and client side, and HTML development, something it took me quite a while to understand is that when you write code in Unity, your classes, which are actually called scripts, maybe for a reason, your classes are actually the leaves of a hierarchy. You don't begin from the root. Because when you're writing classes, like in my case, the most important class is unit. So what I'm doing here, unit is a battling unit. Okay, so every Roman infantry, Roman cavalry, Germanic infantry, and Germanic fanatic or druid is actually extending unit. But all your base classes, they actually extend mono behavior. And this means it's not just an interface. Extending mono behavior means that there's a huge amount of events and behavior already modeled for you, and methods for events ready for you to use. So maneuvering in the sense of the object hierarchy is not that useful. And you may find it more practical and simple to work by using object composition. So let's open our Unity class, unit class, and here I'm using all the defaults. So I'm using the monodevelop default editor, and let's check how is this class. Now notice this is an abstract class. And this just so that, the concrete objects you're using, the scenes are always like a Roman legionary or a Roman cavalry or so on. So they will extend unit. So the object of good coding is to avoid, of course, duplication of logic and code, because that makes it hard to maintain. And so one of our aims is to have as little code as possible in our concrete instances. So like, for example, Roman infantry that extends unit, in fact, has just this code that you see here. That's okay. So it's actually very, very little. Well, maybe an idea comes to mind that very little for doing what? Well, maybe I should show you what the current model actually does, and then we'll get back to unit and Roman to the base classes, so to see what is done is achieved through Unity and code. Now, when you move from scene to game, in Unity you have a view of what the camera shows you. So now I'm going to enable maximize on play, which is not very useful normally, but in this case I'm going to use it just to show you in the video what has been done. So here I assumed, though in the model is not hard coded, that the player is playing the Romans and the computer is playing the Germanic tribes. So the Romans actually have to survive passing through the forest. So notice, if you select a unit, the camera focuses on that unit, and the unit appears selected. And then I can move it forward, okay? And again, and so on. Now, notice that the cavalry can move more, and we see how that is done, because actually cavalry units have different instantiation parameters. And notice that the Germanic heroes are doing nothing, because actually this is set up as a trap. You can move the camera with the arrows, and you see this is supposed to be the signal, the trap that gives all the tribes hidden in the woods the signal to assault. The woods give a defensive bonus, and if one reaches here, the hill does a defensive and attacking bonus. And what I want to do is that if the Roman reach camp up here, they're safe. So as soon as one of the Roman passes, the Roman units can actually attack if they see and they see the animation now, the melee animation, which been done by the brilliant graphic designer. And so he bounced after the first melee, so they both survived, but with some damage. And anyway, so if a unit passes the trap, you see the Germanic are assaulting now. They're chasing. They entered the chase state, and they're chasing the Romans. You can still try to escape. I could try here, at least with the cavalry. You see the scene. Now we're dense with scenes and attacks and melees. Oh my god. So let's try to escape here. Well, it's easy with the Roman cavalry. So anyway, this is what... one died. So this is what we've done up to now. Actually, he can't escape here. This is impassable. So this is drama unfolding. Okay, so this is the game up to now. And okay, so this is what we've done. We were at the classes. So how did we model all this? Well, I think if we go through the unit class, we can see how this has been modeled up to now. So we're talking abstractly of units, so we have to cover both the Germanic and Romans. And when I say Germanic, I mean because of course the Romans had Germanic auxiliaries and even Germanic legions, but of course, so in this case are the adversaries, apart from historical considerations. But So each unit has to be on one of the two sides. Now a side is an enum, which means it's a list, and we could have even three sides. We could have I don't know. Well, in this case, the word was quite divided in two. We could have, I don't know, some Gallic tribe, which on neither side. Anyway, we have a state. Now, I had model state also with an enum, and actually even more, I had the model with objects. But then when I understood the animation part, and which is tightly connected, which can be easily and very practically connected with the state of the units, I removed all that and simplified things. So for the moment, we just use state. The state of a unit, it's a number. So we can have unit idle, select, advance, in melee, dead, or in chase state. And you can, of course, and we will, of course, add more states. And here we have explicitly on the unit instance, it's Sprite Render Animator, which is quite comfortable when you're coding, instead of always going and finding the components. We have each unit will be aware whether it's the human player that manages it or the AI, and on which side it is. I give two defaults. These are all these variables here, properties. Here are for dealing with movements. And notice the ground, special ground, which allows us to know whether a unit is on the wood or on the hill or another special part. And here we use it to handle state. So whether with whom it's in melee, if it's in melee, how many life points, and whether it's going to for chasing other units. So in here I created a base start method, which is called by the start method of the instances, in order to set up all the required components, in order to have here in Battle Scene Manager a list of all the units present. This is very comfortable. Every unit in the beginning we set it to state idle, and we record we add our unit click on the unit click manager. This unit update is called by the update methods of the concrete instances as a sort of base behavior to which each unit unit type update can add behavior, and we detected whether in melee, and if the melee time is over, we attack, and whether the unit is alive or dead, for example. Okay, so these are really going to maybe too much detail. We have for handling collision and clicks, entering melee, attacking. Notice here two abstract methods: compute attack force against and compute defense force against. These are every unit will need to give an implementation of these two methods, so that we can make it a more interesting strategy game, so that we can make, for example, that Roman cavalry is particularly strong against Germanic infantry, and Germanic infantry is particularly effective against I don't know, Roman auxiliaries, and Roman auxiliaries are in their turn particularly effective against I don't know, Germanic fanatic, and fanatics against cavalry. So that it's like a closed circle, and this forces the player, makes the game more interesting, because you have to somehow get the strong ones get certain units against certain other type while avoiding the others, and vice versa. And this is the die event where I remove and I enter a date state. And this is find closest enemy alive, and which are useful when to find when you're going to a chase state, and other methods for dealing with state. So notice here I created a wrapper for the state, which is just a number, in order to make it more comfortable to deal with that. So what do we have to write in a concrete instance of a battling unit in order to make it possible to use it? Well, you have to write implement these four methods. That is, start when you set on which side the unit is. So when you set whether it's handled by player or not. You call base start on unit. You set how quick it can move and how many life points it has. So, for example, if you take German infantry, we have it's relying on some defaults. It's on the side Germanicals. It has the same movement of the Romans. Let's see, Roman cavalry. It has more movement and has doesn't have a variation on the life points. Then you have to implement a unit update, and if it's the unit it's handled by the player, then it has to detect whether the player is doing something on it. And then the two methods for computing attack force against a certain unit. Notice that still here we haven't implemented a specific logic, but we will. Just one thing, in the Roman infantry has a specific and unique to it a feature that it can go into quadratum, which is, a particular formation particularly effective in defense. So if it goes into quadratum, its base defense is ×2. So that's it. How to write the concrete instances. Now there's nothing in the code that we've seen up to now that actually handles the animation that we've seen in the gameplay. How is this done? Well, this is, I think, I believe, as I read, this has been completely re-implemented for Unity 2D. And it's a bit tricky on how to set it on the editor, because there's no way from the animations to go to their usage, at least none I've found. You always have to move from the sprite instance. So like if I go into Roman cavalry and then you go to animator, then it will show you the animator state of a particular unit. So and the same with the animation. So if I go here, notice it was empty. I selected one unit and now it shows me something. So same for Roman infantry or Roman cavalry. Now, so this is really tricky when you want to start, because if you want to create an animation on a unit and hence handle it with a logic. So animation is where you the window where you create animations. That is, you make like in the case of Roman infantry melee, we have here the four sprites, the four states where we go in cycle when we are battling. Now, so if you start without having selected anything, go into animation, you just find an open window and you can actually do nothing. It tells you nothing and you can't do anything. And the same if you try to open from project animation. So this is maybe something which could be revised in following edition of Unity. But anyway, and it's actually even worse, because if you work with prefabs, even if you select the prefab, you still don't see the animations. But no, now it seems to be working from the prefab. Anyway, but not when you're building new ones. So anyway, you just select the instance where you want to build the animation, then this becomes alive, and you even look, and in this is very important little combo, you can do create new clip. This means that you can create a new animation. So once you have created animations and still with the unit selected, you open the animator window. Notice that you can always open this animation and animator window from here, but do it with the unit selected, otherwise it won't work. Then you can start introducing states here, and this is the next thing that we're gonna see. So in animation, you use your sprite and sprite sheets to create animations which are handled by the animator. That is, depending on the state, on what state your instance is, different animations will be used. So it will start with empty, like any state, but if you right click here, you can do create state and create new states. What I did in case of Roman infantry, I first created a Roman infantry idle state, and I marked it as default, set as default. Then I created other three animations, selected, dead, and melee, which we've seen in the gameplay before, and I used a single variable here, which I created, which I call current state, which has numeric values. These are the numeric values that we've seen in the classes in the unit, in the top part of unit here. Okay, this is why I use the simple numeric values, because these actually are the only values which I can concretely use in the editor, so I had no choice. And so the Roman infantry idle goes into Roman infantry selected whenever the current state variable value equals 1. And when does this do it? Well, this is handled somewhere in code. Let's check. Okay. So set state selected. It's when a unit is clicked, okay, well, that's simple, huh? When any of the Roman units is clicked, then its state will become state selected. Now, when the state becomes state selected, actually the Roman infantry selected animation becomes active, which means you can see it here that it will have the blue border around it. Huh? Maybe by playing here with no. So there was a way to do it. Anyway, you can see it with the blue border selected. The same for the other unit. So if you see here, so it will enter this. The animation will be done by simply this. This is nice of Unity, that you can refine once you have the game design and the mechanics in place, which of course will also change during development. But anyway, if you have a base idea there, you can do like say selected at first is just having a border here, but you could have then easily and without changing much actually anything of the logic, at least with this edition, and handle in this way. You could have here that it actually the horse is bouncing up and down, which means I'm selected, and so on. So this is actually quite practical, because these values, once you set them in code, you don't have in code to handle the animations by hand. It's all done separately. It's all delegated to the animator animation part here. So this is really quite cool. And what else I want to talk? Well, one thing is how I handle the movement. So the fact here that we are not using gravity or physics, so we're not using force to move the units, but it would be very ugly if I mean, most things, at least in this process, are very ugly. But anyway, it would be even worse if when I selected the unit and I say to go here, it would, I mean, it's going from A to B. If I would just translate the unit here, that would look like teleporting, which would look bad. But so what I at first did, I said, well, it's entering the state advancing, and in every update I would advance it. I mean, if like a tenth of a second has passed and it's in state advancing, I would move it a little bit. Now this is very wrong way of doing it, because you're sort of rebuilding the wheel and doing it wrong, because there's a whole set of tween libraries free in Unity, which you can use, which handle all cases when you want to go from value A to value B, and somehow you want to go from you already know where you want to go, but you want it to go like smoothly with some effect, like this in games happens all the time, like in let's say when you're in Zelda and you raise the sword and you getting power from the sky, the sword doesn't become white all at once. It's like a gorge. It grows, and well, this is a perfect use for tweens. So I actually imported a very powerful and simple to use tween component, which is called the hot tween. And so every time I want to move something, I actually use that. You can find it all done in the code. Let me see if I find okay, so this is an example usage. So if here after an attack I want to bounce, if they're not dead, I mean I want to bounce the unit a bit. So I just use hot tween 2 and I use my current position and I move it a bit in the opposite direction. You can see all this done in the code. I think I talked enough for this first episode, but one thing I want just to explain the code about the battle scene manager, how it is done, if I remember it. And so battle scene manager, let's see how it is done. Oh, it's actually very simple. Battle scene manager comes associated with an empty game object, has the list of all the units. It has a global state, whether in the scene the Germanic are chasing the Romans. I have a delegate an event for handling the click events. And what else? And I just ensure that I have a single instance of the battle scene manager. Okay, I seem to have forgot how. Because there's also a game manager. The game manager, what it does, because the game manager does not extend mono behavior, or it's just a singleton 2, and it takes only some configuration, like whether the Romans are handled by the player and whether the Germanics are handled by the player or not, and the points. The score. This is all stuff that I will have to work in the future. So okay, so this comes the end. This is where development is. You can download the project, and I will work in the meantime starting from here, and then in the next video you'll see what I'll done, and I'll explain it to you. And the new project version will be downloadable. Maybe I could even put it on GitHub. Yes, why not? I'll put it on GitHub so you can tell me about the hundreds of horrible mistakes. Bear with me because I am really learning here. And so if you have any questions, or you can the best way is to write me on Twitter. I'm Peoples Nelly, and so hear you soon. Bye.